Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once there, you can find all kinds of places you can download our podcast, Baby Boomer Tales. You can also find our Boomer's General Store, home of the famous Baby Boomer Tales coffee mug. Thank you for riding along today. My name is Jim. This is a list of my favorite entertainment and sports folks. Now you gotta forgive me here in advance. Usually I only have one piece of paper with an outline written out, and I kind of follow that. Well, on this one I have narrow ruled paper, and I've got notes going sideways and red arrows pointing this way and that way, and every line is full, and some of the lines I doubled spaced or wrote something on top of something else in the very narrow line as it was. So I'll try to manage to get through this without too many errors. I may have to go back once in a while and correct myself. I may edit that out, and I may leave it in. I don't really see where leaving it in and saying you screwed up is that big of a deal. We all do it, whatever we do. If we try to cover it up and be perfect, well, who are we trying to fool, ourselves? Yeah, I spend a lot of time trying to fool myself. I think it's part of the human condition. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just my condition. So here we go. First set of people I'm going to cover are baseball players. Now I'm not going to cover any managers on this one because I did that before in a podcast. Told you my favorite baseball managers, favorite football coaches, pro and college, favorite basketball coaches, pro and college. So we'll try to keep the coaches out of this episode today. Also, I'm not going to talk about Elston Howard or Mickey Mantle. A few weeks back, I talked about both of those guys. How Elston was my favorite player and Mickey was my very favorite, most cherished, my hero. So I'll leave those two out, and I'm going to leave Jackie Robinson out also. Not because he's not one of my favorites, but that's just too obvious. Probably 80% of all people would say that Jackie Robinson would be on this type of list. Jackie Robinson is in a class by himself. He was a very good baseball player and a very brave man, and a class act, that's for sure. So let's get started. My very first favorite baseball player was Joe Jackson. He was part of the Black Sox scandal of 1919 when he played for the Chicago White Sox. Even though Joe had a MVP outing on the World Series, he did admit to kind of blowing a couple 3 plays, so the opposition had an advantage. 8 players got suspended for life because of that Black Sox scandal. My second favorite player, and back to Joe. Joe just wanted to play baseball. I am sure of it. He was an illiterate man back in those days in the 1919s. That was not unusual, and I think he was taken advantage of. And he admitted right off instead of denying. He was a stand-up guy, that's for sure. My second favorite. These really aren't in order. I just wrote them down. Roberto Clemente. He played for the Pirates. He's a Hall of Fame player. Best player probably the Pirates ever had. Maybe the best they'll ever have. He died in 1972 on New Year's Eve in a plane crash. He is flying aid to Nicaragua that had a devastating earthquake there. He's doing some humanitarian work. His plane went down and he died. My next player, Satchel Page. Satch was born in 1906. In 1927, he played for the Birmingham Black Barons of the old Negro Leagues. In 1948, at the age of 42, he broke in with the Cleveland Indians. Him and Minnie Minoso, very old players when they were still playing Major League Baseball. I became a Satchel Page fan when I read his book, Don't Look Back, Someone Might Be Gaining on You. Great book. Satchel was quite a character, besides one of the greatest baseball pitchers there ever was, period. And my last on my favorite players, and I try to keep this at 4, and once in a while I'll go under or over here, but George Brett played 1973 to 1993, with the Kansas City Royals. Maybe most famous for the pine tar incident where they discovered the pine tar on his bat went too far up on the bat towards the trademark. Threw him out of the game. George had a fit. Billy Martin instigated it, manager of the Yankees. It was quite a brouhaha. George was kind of an average batter when he first came up. And Charlie Lau, he was a 10-year player. He was then the hitting coach for the Royals. He only hit .255 average in his career, but he was a guru for these batters. And he taught George how to hit. And George was a Hall of Fame player, hit a career .305 average. And to this date, he's still the best player the Royals have ever had. The next thing is football. And I'm not going to talk about Johnny Unitas because at one point I did say Johnny was one of my heroes as a kid also. Johnny and Mickey. First player, Jim Brown, Cleveland Browns. Played running back from 1957 through 65 for the Browns. He is an 8-time NFL rushing leader. Averaged 5.2 yards per carry. Ran for over 12,000 yards in his career. Next player, Joe Montana, quarterback. He played for both the 49ers and 1 year for the Chiefs. Played from 1979 through 1994. His most famous play, as far as I could tell, was that touchdown pass in the end zone as they were playing the Dallas Cowboys, I believe it was, an NFL championship game possibly. Great touchdown to Dwight Clark. And my next to last player here on my football players, Randy Gradishar. He's a linebacker at Ohio State and became a Denver Bronco, played with the Broncos from 1974 through 83. He's in the Broncos Ring of Fame. He's on Ohio State's All-Century team. He was the greatest player of the Orange Crush defense. He was really good. And my last player on this list, Gene Big Daddy Lipscomb. He played professional football between 1953 and 1961. Played 4 years with the Colts. That's when I knew all about Big Daddy Lipscomb. Gene never knew his father. His mother died when Gene was 11. She was murdered. Big Daddy Lipscomb. He weighed 288 pounds, 6'6". That was a real big man back in those days. Not that that's not big now. Some of these players are bigger anymore. Big Daddy died of a drug overdose at age 32. In basketball, there again, no coaches, so let's go right to the players. Some of these guys maybe were coaches later on, but I'm talking about them as a player. Bill Russell, he played for the Celtics between 1956 and 69. He's an 11-time NBA champ. 5 times he was the MVP of the league. He's 88 years old now, still going strong. I remember those wonderful games between Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt had the size on him. Bill was tougher. Next player, Dave DeBusschere. He played for the Knicks and the Pistons, but when he was with the Knicks on that great team, 2-time NBA champ, played with Earl Monroe, Walt Frazier, Bill Bradley, Willis Reed. What a team. My next player, Irvin Magic Johnson. Played for Michigan State, and him and Larry Bird had amazing contests. He's a 1979 NCAA champion with Michigan State. Then he went and played with the Lakers. The thing I liked about Magic Johnson the very most is that guy could play every position, and did. He played every position. Amazing. And the last one, and this is where I say maybe they're not in order, unless I do the last one is the best on this one. Michael Jordan. Played for North Carolina in college and then for the Chicago Bulls. The last 2 years of his career he played for the Wizards. He was a 6-time NBA champ, 5-time MVP, National Player of the Year in college, and in my opinion, my humble opinion, he's the greatest pro basketball player there ever was. Michael Jordan. He made everyone better around him. And I think that is a sign of greatness. Let's change gears a little here. Let's go to TV actors. We'll do the males first. Carroll O'Connor. He was Archie Bunker on All in the Family. Later, he was Sheriff Gillespie on In the Heat of the Night. That guy is quite the actor. Two different types of roles, and he pulled them both off in an excellent manner. My next TV guy, from Taxi, Latka Gravas, or we know him as Andy Kaufman, he pulled that one off. He is so funny. Have you ever seen him do a Elvis impersonation? Now, poor old Andy's no longer with us, but if you can YouTube that, he's the best Elvis impersonator I ever saw. My next one, Robin Williams, Mork and Mindy, Mork from Mork, Nanu Nanu. I never liked Robin's stand-up routines. I just didn't. He just went too wild and crazy guy, I guess. But as far as an actor, he was an excellent actor in everything he did. Yes, he played some serious roles. Funny guy. And my last one in this list of TV actors that were males, Tom Selleck. Old Thomas Magnum at Magnum P.I. and Frank Reagan on Blue Bloods. He's just old Steady Eddie as far as I can tell. TV actors and female. My very first one, and this lady is my, well, let me just skip her as far as TV and just tell you two of my very favorite actors. Sally Field, TV and movies. She did some great movies. Plus she was Gidget. That's where I, quote, fell in love with her, end quote. You know, it wasn't love at 16, but whatever. I've always admired her as an actress. And Robert Duvall as an actor. The reason I left him out, he's been in great movies, but he's also on Lonesome Dove. That was a TV deal. So I had to put those two in a class kind of by themselves. So let's go to the women TV actors. Time is starting to get away from me here a little. Lucille Ball, I Love Lucy. She lived to be 77 years old. Her and Desi Arnaz started Desi Lou. Lauren Graham of the Gilmore Girls and Parenthood. She was Lorelai as the Gilmore Girl, and Sarah Braverman in Parenthood. Patricia Heaton, she's Deborah on Everybody Loves Raymond. And Frankie Heck in The Middle. Two pretty good shows, I'd have to say. And my last one here, and this one is an all-time great, has to be. I'd get some hate mail if I didn't put her on, probably. Now, not really. You guys are really good. You don't, tell me everything I shouldn't and should have said. Thank you for that. Betty White. She died 2.5 weeks shy of being 100 years old. She was the Energizer Bunny, that's a fact. She was in all kinds of game shows in early TV days. Then she was in Mary Tyler Moore Show as Suzanne Nivens. She was great at that. She was Rose Nyland on The Golden Girls and Elka on Hot in Cleveland. She even had a show back in the early TV days called The Betty White Show. Betty was always working, probably what kept her going. Movie actors, male. Dustin Hoffman, Rain Man, Little Big Man, The Graduate, Papillon, you name it. Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan, Saving Mr. Banks, A League of Their Own, etc., etc. Jimmy Stewart, he was one of my all-time favorites. It's a Wonderful Life, The Glenn Miller Story, How the West Was Won, and The Cheyenne Social Club, just to name a few. And the last one on this list, Denzel Washington. First one I remember him in, Glory. He's also in Crimson Tide, The Preacher's Wife, The Hurricane, and one of my favorite movies of all time, Remember the Titans. Movie actors, female. Debbie Reynolds, How the West Was Won, Unsinkable Molly Brown. Katharine Hepburn, The African Queen, Bringing Up Baby, On Golden Pond. Diane Keaton, Annie Hall, Baby Boom. Father of the Bride with Steve Martin. And Sissy Spacek, Raggedy Man, Coal Miner's Daughter. The best group I ever heard, I think, the Beatles, followed by the Supremes, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, the Beach Boys, and the Eagles. Or should I say Eagles? They're not the Eagles, they are Eagles. Best Male Artist, Singer, Bob Dylan, George Strait, James Taylor, Jim Croce, and Nat King Cole. Best Female Singer, Linda Ronstadt, Stevie Nicks, Whitney Houston, Patsy Cline, and Adele. And the last one I have here, because it seemed like all my athletes were male. It didn't seem like it was. And it's not that I don't like female sports. I am a big women's basketball fan, especially high school girls basketball. It is a great brand of basketball, most definitely. I sat through many track meets watching those great female athletes as my daughters were in high school and stuff. But let me start here. Babe Dickerson Saharis, track and golf. Jackie Joyner Kersey, track. Chris Evert and Yvonne Guligan, tennis. Nadia Comaneci, gymnastics. Dorothy Hamill, Katarina Witt, figure skating, and Mia Hamm in soccer. Thank you for joining me today. It means more than you'll ever know. If you like our podcast, I ask that you share it with somebody. It's the only thing I ever ask, and I do appreciate that you do. Kindness comes from within, but it shows on the outside. Always be kind. I'll be back next Wednesday. Peace out.